Hello, welcome to our project. My name is Spencer Blake,
I'm Adam Carino.
and today we're going to be discussing how temperature relates to the pH of rainwater in Oxford. And we're also going to compare the pH of our rain to a body of water that's in Oxford that is affected by runoff, plant life, and other marine life that lives inside of it. And now I'm going to let Adam introduce our research.
As the spring season progressed, we wanted to observe and measure the pH levels of rainwater to see if changes in climate would be shown in the pH levels, mainly because spring is the season where the weather is changing and the temperature is increasing. We wanted to look at this because typical rainwater has a pH of around 5.6, and we wanted to compare Oxford's rain to the overall average and monitor if or how it changes. We then wanted to compare the rainwater to runoff water to observe any differences in pH and to look into any causes for that. Now, Spencer's going to talk about some of our methods.
So, for several weeks throughout the semester, we left a collection bucket on top of our apartment, which is figured below, and we allowed it to collect rainwater. This was just the easiest and simplest way we could think of gathering the rainwater without having a bunch of it spill or be lost. At the beginning, we also determined that the pond behind Sims, would be the best body of water to test our runoff theory because it was local. And we also knew that it would be affected by the runoff because of where it's located and all the activity around it. After it would rain, we would gather a sample from the bucket and then empty the bucket and then record the initial pH of the sample that we took. After that, we'd let the sample sit. We had it sit in the same spot until the end of our process, which means that all the samples that we collected were affected by sunlight at some point. And then on the final day, we measured the final pHs for all the samples that we took. On the last day is when we also took our final sample from the Sims pond and we measured the pH of that too. So I'm going to pass it off to Adam to look at our results.
So, looking at our initial measurements of the pH when we collected the rainwater, they all ranged from 4.5 to 5, which indicates slightly acidic rainwater. After the samples sat in the window with exposure to the sun, just from being in a windowsill throughout the day, the pH was higher in every case, ranging between 5 and 6. So, looking at the average weekly temperature, there was no clear correlation between the temperature and the pH, partly because the temperature was more or less the same throughout the weeks we collected this water. Um, and then there was, however, a clear pattern of higher pH in the samples that sat compared to the initial levels upon being collected, just showing that there was a difference from having some time just collected in the windowsill with being exposed to sun and air. And now we are going to talk a little more about the water we collected from the Sims Pond.
Yeah, so in order to compare the rainwater to the local body of water, we obviously collected a sample from it and looked at the pH. And from what we found, the initial or the pH of the Sims water was a 7, which is neutral and is a lot different from the rainwater which we collected that was more acidic. We figured that the reasons for this was likely because there's lots of minerals and plant life within the pond that will help balance it and make the water more neutral. And if you think about it, it makes sense for the pond water to be more neutral because the local marine life in the area, like bluegill and largemouth bass, typically exist in environments that have around a 7 pH, and they like their water a little more neutral. So now I'm going to let Adam talk a little more about conclusions.
So to wrap this up, our initial samples were slightly acidic with pH from 4.5 to 5, especially when compared to our runoff and tap water samples, which were both closer to a neutral water level of 7. We think this happened from overall pollution and the burning of fossil fuels that results in sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides in the air that then mix with the rainwater and get into the collected water that's coming from the sky, overall making it more acidic. And this would explain why it's more acidic than the others. Um, our findings also suggest that storage length and conditions of rainwater can alter the chemistry of rainwater over time, which makes this a very important factor to consider when doing anything concerning analyzing rainwater or studying it. It just goes to show how important it is to get the pH levels immediately rather than letting them sit or store them pretty much anywhere um, for an extended period of time. Um, and yeah, this is also just the best method to ensure the most accurate data um, and precise numbers.
So overall, the rainwater from Oxford is slightly more acidic than normal, which obviously we attributed to the rising levels of pollution. But this could also be applied more than just in Oxford and all across the country as more pollution starts to take place. We will see an increase in acidic rain, and obviously this is not a good thing. So we should work to prevent this and keep our rain less acidic.